The ice machine hummed its familiar broken tune as I wiped down the last table, my shoulders aching from the double shift. 11:43 p.m. The steakhouse was finally empty. The last businessman having stumbled out 20 minutes ago, leaving a decent tip and the lingering smell of bourbon. I should have left already. Should have clocked out with Jenny and Marcus, the other servers who'd given me sympathetic waves on their way to the Red Line. But I'd volunteered to close, like I always did. Needed the extra hour of pay, needed the quiet. Needed to not go home to my studio apartment where the silence felt too loud and my thoughts circled like vultures. The restaurant Taurelios occupied a corner building in River North. All exposed brick and Edison bulbs and leather booths that cost more than my monthly rent. The kind of place where a ribeye started at $70 and the wine list required a sommelier to navigate. I'd been working here for 6 months, ever since I'd arrived in Chicago with a duffel bag and a new name. Not legally new, just new enough that Blake wouldn't find me. My fingers traced the edge of the wine glass I was polishing, checking for spots that weren't there. The familiar ritual calmed me, everything in its place, everything controlled. Then I felt it, the weight of someone watching. My entire body went rigid. Slowly I lifted my gaze toward the bar. A man sat there, silhouetted against the low amber lighting. How long had he been there? How had I not heard him come in? He wore a black suit that looked like it cost more than I made in 6 months, tailored so perfectly it might have been painted on. Dark hair, sharp jawline, and eyes, God. His eyes, so dark they looked black in the dim light. He didn't have a drink, didn't move, just watched me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. I set the wineglass down carefully, my heart hammering. "I'm sorry, sir, we're closed. The kitchen, I know." His voice was deep, accented with something I couldn't place. Italian, maybe. "I'm not here to eat." Every instinct I'd honed over the past 8 months screamed danger. My hand moved subtly toward my phone in my apron pocket. "Emma." He said my name like he'd been saving it on his tongue. "That is your name, isn't it?" Ice flooded my veins. You've worked here for 6 months. You take the closing shifts, cash only, never direct deposit. You're excellent with customers, but you never make eye contact." He stood, and even from across the room I could feel the power radiating from him. "You hide in plain sight." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This was it. Blake had found me. Sent someone. I'd have to run again, disappear again, become someone else again. "Who are you running from, Emma?" The question wasn't cruel. It was knowing, precise, like a scalpel finding the exact point of infection. Before I could answer, before I could lime, Arco emerged from the kitchen, stopping short when he saw us. His expression shifted immediately, something like fear flickering across his face. "Mr. Moretti." Marcos's voice actually shook. "I didn't know you were coming in tonight. Mr. Moretti." The name hit me like ice water. Moretti. As in Dominic Moretti. As in the owner of Aurelio's and, according to whispered conversations I'd overheard, 6 other businesses in Chicago. As in the man I'd been working for without ever knowing he existed. "I wanted to meet our Emma," Dominic said, his eyes never leaving mine. "She's been quite the mystery." My mouth went dry. "I'm sorry, Mr. Moretti, I didn't recognize, I've never seen. I prefer it that way." He moved closer, each step deliberate. "Most people who see me are asking for something or about to lose something." He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that I caught his scent-expensive cologne layered over something darker. "Smoke, maybe? Or whiskey? Which are you?" "Neither," I whispered. "I just work here." That slow, devastating smile. "No one just works for me, Emma, but we'll discuss that later." He pulled a business card from his jacket pocket, held it out. "My private number. Call it if you need anything." I stared at the card like it might burn me. "Take it." Not a request. My fingers trembled as I accepted it. Heavy cardstock. Just a phone number. No name. Dominic turned to leave, then paused at the door, looking back at me with those impossible eyes. "Don't hide any more, Emma. You don't need to. Not while you're mine." Then he was gone, leaving me alone with a business card that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds and the terrifying certainty that my carefully constructed invisibility had just shattered into a million pieces. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. I lay in my narrow bed, staring at the water-stained ceiling of my studio apartment, the business card on my nightstand glowing like a piece of radioactive material. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dominic Moretti's face. That knowing look, that devastating smile. Don't hide anymore. How did he know? What did he know? By morning, I'd convinced myself it was nothing. Rich people were observant. He'd probably noticed I was skittish, made an educated guess. It didn't mean anything. I almost believed it. My shift started at 11. I arrived early, as always, slipping in through the back entrance. The kitchen was already alive with controlled chaos prep cooks chopping vegetables, the sous chef barking orders in rapid-fire Spanish. Safe. Familiar. Normal. Then Marco found me. Mr. Moretti wants to see you. Upstairs. Now. My stomach dropped. Why? Doesn't explain himself to me, chica. But Marco's eyes held sympathy. Just... Be careful, okay? The private office occupied the entire third floor of space I'd never been invited to enter. My legs felt unsteady as I climbed the stairs, each step taking me further from the safety of anonymity. Dominic stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River, his back to me. Even in silhouette, he commanded the space. Black slacks, white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his forearms. No jacket. Somehow that felt more dangerous. Close the door, Emma. I did, my hand trembling on the handle. Sit. He gestured to the leather sofa without turning around. I perched on the edge, spine straight, ready to run. When he finally faced me, he carried 2 glasses and a bottle of whiskey that probably cost more than my car. It's 10 in the morning, I said weakly, then consider it medicinal. He poured 2 generous measures, settled into the chair across from me. Up close, in daylight, he was even more devastating. Sharp cheekbones, a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled, and those eyes saw everything. He slid a glass toward me. Drink. Mr. Moretti, I don't think. Dominic. He leaned back, studying me. And you'll want the whiskey for this conversation. My throat tightened. I took the glass, let the burn steady me. The bruise on your left wrist, he said conversationally. You cover it well, but not perfectly. The way you flinch when men raise their voices. How you position yourself near exits. The fact that you work cash only and never provided an emergency contact on your application. He took a slow sip. Want to tell me about him? Heat flooded my face. I don't know what you don't lie to me, Emma. I've built an empire in reading people. You're running from someone. Someone who hurt you. His voice dropped, became silk over steel. Who is he? The dam broke. Maybe it was the whiskey. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the way he looked at me. Not with pity, but with cold, calculating rage on my behalf. Blake Harrison. My ex-fiancé Boston. The words tumbled out. 2 years together. He was ... controlling. Then violent. I got a restraining order, but it didn't matter. He'd show up at my work, my apartment, my gym, said I belonged to him. That if he couldn't have me, no one could. Dominic's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. So I left. Changed my name legally. Drove to Chicago with everything I owned. I laughed bitterly. Guess I'm pretty pathetic. No. The word cracked like a whip. You're a survivor. There's a difference. He set down his glass. But you're tired of surviving. Tired of hiding. Aren't you? Tears burned my eyes. I couldn't speak. I'm going to make you an offer, Emma. You can refuse, but I'd advise against it. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Work directly for me. Move into a building I own secure, vetted residents only. Accept my protection. I blinked. I can't accept charity. It's not charity. It's an investment. His smile was dark. I protect what's valuable to me. And you, Emma Cole, have become very valuable. Why? I whispered. Because I want you. Simple. Final. And I take what I want. Before I could process that, he stood, pulling his phone from his pocket. Luca will take you to see the apartment this afternoon. You move in this weekend. I haven't agreed. You will. He walked to the door, opened it, then paused, looking back at me with eyes that promised both salvation and damnation. One more thing. Blake Harrison won't be a problem much longer. I'm handling it. What does that mean? His smile could have frozen hell itself. It means you're mine to protect now. And I'm very good at eliminating problems. That evening, as Luca drove me home in a black SUV, I looked out the window and saw 2 more identical vehicles flanking us. 3 SUVs, armed guards. A man who spoke about protection like ownership. I should have been terrified. Instead, for the first time in 2 years, I felt safe. The apartment was on the 10th floor of a building in the Gold Coast that I'd walked past 100 times, never imagining I'd step inside. Glass and steel and doormen in burgundy uniforms who nodded at me like they'd been expecting me. They had been. Luca handed me a keycard, gestured toward the elevator. 15C. Everything's ready. Ready? I echoed, but he was already walking away. The hallway on the 10th floor smelled like new carpet and expensive air freshener. My hand shook as I swiped the keycard, pushed open the door. I forgot how to breathe. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan, the water glittering in the afternoon sun. Hardwood floors gleamed. The kitchen had marble countertops and appliances that looked like they belonged in a spaceship. A living room with furniture that was actually coordinated, not thrift store mismatches. A bedroom with a king-sized bed dressed in white linens so crisp they looked untouched. This wasn't an apartment. This was a sanctuary. I walked through it in a daze, touching everything like I needed to confirm it was real. The bathroom had a rainfall shower and towels so thick and soft I wanted to cry. But it was the small details that made my stomach flip. The refrigerator was fully stocked almond milk, the specific brand of Greek yogurt I bought, strawberries, the fancy coffee I splurged on once a month. In the pantry, my favorite granola, my preferred pasta brand, even the dark chocolate with sea salt I ate when I couldn't sleep. In the bedroom closet hung clothes in my exact size. Jeans, sweaters, dresses I'd never be able to afford. All in colors I gravitated toward, deep blues, soft grays, black. On the bathroom counter sat skincare products, the exact ones I used. He'd been watching me, learning me, cataloging every detail of my existence. I should have been horrified. Instead, I sank onto the edge of the bed and laughed a slightly hysterical sound that echoed in the empty apartment. When was the last time someone had paid attention to what I needed, what I wanted? Blake had noticed things too, but only to control them, only to take them away if I disobeyed. This felt different. Dominic wasn't taking. He was giving. Or was he? Wasn't this just another form of control, wrapped in luxury and safety? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, though I knew exactly who it was. Do you like it? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I should demand answers. Should protest this invasion of privacy. Should maintain boundaries. Instead, I typed, "It's too much." His response came immediately. "It's not enough, but it's a start." Then, "You're safe there, Emma. Security system, cameras, doorman who's been with me for 10 years. No one gets to you without going through me first." I stared at those words until they blurred. Sleep well tonight. You need it. That night, I lay in the massive bed, surrounded by softness I didn't deserve, and waited for the familiar anxiety to creep in. The hypervigilance. The certainty that Blake would somehow find me, break down the door, finish what he'd started. It didn't come. Instead, I slept. Deeply. Dreamlessly. For 8 hours straight. When I awoke, sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to cover. I felt something I hadn't experienced in 2 years. Rested. My phone showed one new message, received at 3:47 a.m. It was a photo. Blake's face filled the screen, bruised, swollen, one eye nearly closed. Blood crusted his split lip. Behind him, I could make out what looked like a warehouse, concrete walls and harsh fluorescent lighting. Below the photo, a message in that same unknown number. He won't bother you again. Sleep well, Karamia. You're mine now. I should have been horrified. Should have called the police, demanded explanations, recognized this for the violence it represented. Instead, I saved the contact under a single name, Dominic. Then I curled back into the expensive sheets and smiled. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't afraid. I was claimed. I lasted exactly 6 hours before I confronted him. The text came mid-morning. Come to the office, now. No, please. No request. Just expectation of obedience. I should have refused. Should have established boundaries, made it clear I wasn't some doll to be moved around at his convenience. Instead, I grabbed my coat and told myself I just needed answers about the photo. Liar. Dominic's office door was open. He stood at his desk, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian that sounded like barely controlled fury. When he saw me, he ended the call mid-sentence. Closed the door. I did, then held up my phone, the photo of Blake's battered face filling the screen. What did you do? I told you. I handled it. He moved to the bar cart, poured 2 glasses of red wine like we were having a casual conversation. He hired a private investigator to find you. My people intercepted him 2 days ago. Your people. The words tasted strange. And the photo? A reminder of what happens when someone touches what's mine. He handed me a glass, his fingers brushing mine deliberately. Blake Harrison understands now. He won't come near you. Won't hire anyone else. Won't even speak your name. You can't just... I struggled for words. You can't go around beating people up because I didn't touch him. Dominic's smile was cold. I have people for that. I simply made the consequences of his actions very clear. I should have been appalled. Should have walked out, called a lawyer something. Instead, I took a long drink of wine. What if he goes to the police? With what evidence? A photo on your phone that came from an unknown number? He settled into the leather chair, gestured for me to sit on the sofa. Emma, men like Blake Harrison are cowards. They prey on women they think are alone, unprotected. Now he knows you're neither, because I belong to you? I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. Yes, no hesitation, no apology. You're under my protection, which means you're mine. Those words are synonymous in my world. I'm not a possession, aren't you? He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on mine with devastating intensity. You're living in my apartment, sleeping in my bed, eating food I provided, protected by my men. Everything you have right now exists because I will it to. Heat flooded my face. Then I'll leave. No. The word was absolute. You won't. Because despite your protests, you feel safer than you have in years. Because last night was the first time you've slept through the night since Boston. Because when you woke up this morning, you weren't afraid. My throat tightened. He was right. God help me. He was right. There are rules, Emma. He stood, moved closer, and I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. You don't leave the building without security. You don't contact anyone from your old life. You don't refuse my protection. His hand lifted, cupped my jaw with surprising gentleness. And you don't hide from me. Not anymore. His thumb traced my cheekbone, and I shivered despite myself. Why? The question came out barely above a whisper. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. I know enough. His thumb moved to my lower lip, the touch sending electricity down my spine. I know you're stronger than you believe. I know you've survived things that would break most people. I know you hide because it's the only way you've learnt to stay safe. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my face. And I know that when I see something I want, I claim it. His voice dropped to something dark and possessive. And I want you, Emma. All of you. My heart hammered against my ribs. This is insane. Probably. His smile was devastating. Does that change anything? I should have said yes. Should have run while I still could. Instead, I whispered, no. His eyes darkened with something fierce and triumphant. Good girl. Then his mouth was on mine, claiming, possessing, devouring every protest I might have made. I melted into him, into this dangerous man who'd swept into my life and rearranged everything. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. You're mine now, cara mia, he murmured. And I protect what's mine. Always. I tried to maintain boundaries. Really, I did. But Dominic Moretti was everywhere. Morning texts asking if I'd slept well. Lunch delivered to the restaurant, always my favorites, always perfectly timed to my break. Late night knocks on my apartment door, him standing there with wine and takeout, and that devastating smile that made my defenses crumble. I was in the neighborhood, he'd say, like we both didn't know he'd crossed the city specifically to see me. We'd sit on my couch, his couch, technically, and talk until dawn. He told me about his family, the Moretti empire that stretched back 4 generations. His father, who'd built a kingdom from nothing and died too young, leaving Dominic to inherit at 23. Everyone expected me to fail, he said one night. His tie loosened, jacket discarded, looking more human than I'd ever seen him. I was too educated, too modern. They thought I'd be easy to manipulate or eliminate. But you weren't. No, his smile was sharp. I learned quickly that, in my world, mercy is weakness. Power is the only currency that matters. He looked at me then, something vulnerable flickering in those dark eyes. Until you. My breath caught. What do I have to do with anything? Everything. He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. You're the first thing I think about when I wake up. The last thing I see before I sleep. You've become my weakness, Emma. And in my world, that's dangerous. Then why? Because I can't stop. His hand cupped my face, thumb stroking my cheekbone. Believe me, I've tried. You're a complication I don't need. A distraction that could get me killed. He leaned closer. And I've never wanted anything more in my life. I should have been afraid of that intensity. Should have recognized obsession for what it was. Instead, I kissed him, not tentative. Not questioning. I kissed him like I was drowning and he was air. He responded immediately, pulling me onto his lap, hands tangling in my hair. The kiss was fire and fury and weeks of restraint finally shattering. When his mouth moved to my neck, I gasped, my fingers clutching his shoulders. Tell me to stop, he murmured against my skin. Tell me you don't want this. Don't stop. The words came out breathless, desperate. Don't you dare stop. We made it to the bedroom somehow, a trail of discarded clothes marking our path. He was gentle, despite the hunger in his eyes, worshipping every inch of skin he uncovered like I was something precious. You're so beautiful, he whispered, pressing kisses along my collarbone. So perfect. Mine. Yours, I agreed, arching into his touch. That night he claimed me completely body and soul. And I let him. God help me. I wanted him to. Afterward, we lay tangled together, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my spine. I'd never felt so safe, so seen, so utterly possessed. Are you afraid of anything? I asked quietly. His hand stilled. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, losing you, before you realize you're already mine. I lifted my head to look at him. I already know. Something fierce and vulnerable crossed his face. He kissed me again, slower this time. Reverent. Sleep, cara mia, he murmured. I'll be here when you wake up. For once, I believed it. I woke to sunlight and an empty bed, but his scent still clung to the sheets. On the nightstand sat a black velvet box I hadn't noticed the night before. Inside was a key ornate silver, clearly old and valuable. Beneath it, a note in his bold handwriting. To my office. Come whenever you need to feel safe. You'll always have a place in my world. I held the key to my chest, something warm and terrifying blooming in my ribcage. This wasn't just protection anymore. This was belonging. I'd been working the evening shift for 3 weeks when everything changed. The restaurant hummed with its usual Friday night energy, businessmen celebrating deals, couples on anniversary dinners, the soft clink of expensive silverware against bone china. I moved between tables with a confidence I'd never had before, smiling at customers, making recommendations. I wasn't hiding anymore. The man appeared at my section without warning. Mid-40s, silver threading through dark hair, wearing a suit that rivaled Dominic's in price but lacked his effortless elegance. Something about him set my instincts on edge, the way his eyes tracked me, calculating and cold. "Good evening," I said, falling into professional autopilot. "Can I start you with something to drink? Your most expensive bottle of Barolo." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm celebrating," I nodded, retreating to the wine cellar. When I returned with the bottle, $1,200, my hands steady, despite the price tag, he gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Sit for a moment." "I'm sorry, sir, but I have other tables. I insist, not a request." Every alarm bell in my head screamed danger. But we were in a crowded restaurant. What could happen? I perched on the edge of the chair, ready to bolt. "You're Emma, aren't you?" He poured himself a generous glass, didn't offer me any. "Dominic Moretti's new. What should I call you, employee? Pet? Obsession?" My blood turned to ice. "I don't know what you—" "Please." He waved a dismissive hand. "Everyone in our world knows. Dominic Moretti, the untouchable king of Chicago, completely besotted with a waitress." He leaned forward. "Tell me, does he know you're using him? That you're just a frightened little rabbit looking for a hole to hide in? I think you should leave. I'm a paying customer." His smile was venomous. "How long have you worked here? 3 months? 6? Do you understand what your benefactor really is? The blood on his hands. The bodies buried because of him." My chair scraped back. "I'm getting my manager." His hand shot out, gripping my wrist. Not hard enough to bruise, but firm enough to stop me. "A warning, little rabbit. Pretty things break so easily in our world. And Dominic Moretti has many enemies." His thumb pressed against my pulse point. "It would be a shame if something happened to you." Then he was airborne. I didn't even see them move. 1 second, the man was holding my wrist. The next, Luca and another guard I didn't recognize had him by the arms, hauling him away from the table with brutal efficiency. The restaurant went silent. "Gentlemen." The man's voice remained calm even as they dragged him toward the exit. "Tell Dominic that Marco Vitelli sends his regards." They were gone in seconds, the door closing behind them. The other diners slowly returned to their meals, pretending they hadn't witnessed anything. My hands trembled as I tried to collect the wine bottle. "Emma." Marco appeared at my elbow, his face pale. "Office. Now." I climbed the stairs on shaking legs. The office door burst open before I could knock. Dominic stood there, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked truly dangerous. No polished businessman, no charming suitor. This was the man who'd built an empire on fear and respect. "Did he touch you?" His voice was arctic. "My wrist." Just for a second, he crossed the distance between us in 2 strides, taking my hand with surprising gentleness. His thumb traced where Vitelli had gripped me, even though there was no mark. "He threatened you. Not a question," he said. He said pretty things break easily. Something murderous flashed across Dominic's face. He pulled out his phone, pressed a single button. "Find Marco Vitelli. Bring him to the warehouse. Alive." A pause. "For now." Terror and something else, something dark and thrilling, flooded through me. "Dominic," he cut my face in both hands, and I saw it then. Fear. Real, raw fear in those dark eyes. "He put his hands on you. In my restaurant. Threatened you." His jaw clenched. "Do you understand what that means? What I have to do now? Don't." My hands covered his. "Don't become something you'll regret. Not for me. I'm already something to regret, cara mia." His forehead pressed against mine. "But for you? I'll become something worse. I'll become the monster they all fear. I don't want that. Then you shouldn't have let me fall in love with. You? The confession hung between us, raw and devastating. Because now, he whispered, I'll burn the entire world down before I let anyone hurt you. You're leaving the city, Dominic's. Voice was steel as he paced his office, phone in one hand, the other running through his hair in uncharacteristic agitation. Tonight. I have a house in Vermont. Remote. Secure. You'll stay there until this is handled. No. I stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the city lights blur below. He stopped mid-stride. Excuse me. I said no. I turned to face him, surprised by my own steadiness. I'm not running anymore, Dominic. I spent 2 years hiding from Blake. I won't disappear again. This isn't Blake. His voice rose, control slipping. Marco Vitelli is a rival with resources, connections, and absolutely no conscience. He threatened you to get to me, and you're playing right into it. I moved closer, refusing to back down. He wants you distracted, paranoid, making mistakes. Sending me away gives him exactly what he wants. It keeps you safe. Makes me a prisoner. The words exploded out of me. A beautiful, protected prisoner, but a prisoner nonetheless. Is that what you want? To lock me away like some treasure you're afraid to lose? His jaw clenched. If that's what it takes, then you're no different than Blake. The comparison was unfair, and I knew it, but desperation made me cruel. He controlled me out of insecurity. You'll control me out of fear. Either way, I lose myself. Something shattered in his expression. Don't compare me to him. Ever. Then don't make me choose between safety and agency. My voice broke. Please, Dominic. I can't go back to being invisible. We stared at each other across the office, two stubborn forces colliding. Finally, he closed his eyes, exhaled slowly. Fine. You stay. His eyes opened, hard as obsidian, but on my terms. The next morning, I found myself in a private gym I didn't know existed, a floor below Dominic's office. All mats and mirrors and equipment that looked military grade. Dominic stood in the center wearing athletic clothes I'd never seen him in, looking dangerously casual. If you insist on staying in danger's reach, you learn to protect yourself. For the next week, my life transformed. Mornings meant training. He taught me to shoot, to fight, to read situations for threats. His touch was professional, correcting my stance, adjusting my grip, but the tension between us built with every session. Again, he commanded, as I aimed at the target. I hit the center. Not good enough. In a real situation, your hands will shake. Your vision will blur. Again, I fired. Dead center. Better. Something like pride flickered in his eyes. One afternoon during hand-to-hand practice, he swept my legs. I hit the mat hard and he followed me down, pinning me with his body weight. In a fight, size matters, he said, his voice low. Your opponent will use it against you. I was acutely aware of every point where our bodies touched. His breath on my face, the heat radiating from him. What do I do? My voice came out breathless. His eyes darkened. You use their expectations against them. Make them underestimate you. He shifted, and I felt his control slipping. Make them believe you're weak. And then you destroy them. His hand cupped my face, thumb tracing my lower lip. Like you're destroying me. Dominic, you're strong enough to survive without me, Emma. The confession was raw. I need you to choose me anyway. My hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. I choose you. Every time. In every way. He kissed me then, fierce and claiming and desperate. We made love right there on the training mat. All pretense of professionalism abandoned. Afterward, lying in his arms, I understood the truth. I wasn't choosing safety over danger. I was choosing him over everything else. And I'd never felt more powerful in my life. The dress Dominic had commissioned was a work of art midnight blue silk that clung to every curve, with a neckline that dipped just low enough to be daring. Diamonds glittered at my throat, a borrowed necklace worth more than I'd make in 10 years. You're trying to start a war, I'd said when he fastened the clasp. His smile had been dark. I'm making a statement. You're mine, and everyone will know it. The charity gala occupied the entire top floor of the Ritz-Carlton. A glittering display of Chicago's elite pretending philanthropy justified their excess. I walked beside Dominic, his hand possessive on my lower back, acutely aware of the stares following us. "They're all looking," I whispered. "Good." His grip tightened. "Let them see what belongs to me." We made our rounds. Donors, politicians, business associates. Dominic introduced me with pride, not as his employee or his date, but simply as Emma, mine. No one questioned it. I was getting champagne when I felt it, that prickling awareness of being watched. I turned, scanned the crowd, and caught a glimpse of silver hair disappearing through the balcony doors. Vitelli. I should have found Dominic immediately. Should have stayed in the safe, crowded ballroom. Instead, I followed. The balcony overlooked the city, cold November wind cutting through my thin dress. Vitelli stood at the railing, smoke curling from an expensive cigar. "Brave little rabbit," he said without turning, or foolish. I haven't decided which. "What do you want?" He faced me, and in the moonlight he looked almost reasonable. Almost. "To offer you a choice. Walk away from Dominic Moretti tonight. Disappear. I'll ensure your ex-fiancé never finds you. You'll be safe, protected, free. And if I refuse, then you watch his empire burn." His voice remained conversational. "I have evidence of his dealing shipments that should never have crossed state lines, politicians who've been paid far too generously, bodies that were never found. One phone call to the right federal prosecutor, and Dominic Moretti goes to prison for the rest of his life." My heart hammered. "You're bluffing, am I?" He took a long pull from his cigar. "Or are you just in love with a monster?" I thought about everything Dominic had given me. Safety, security, the freedom to stop hiding, a life I'd never imagined I could have. Then I thought about losing him. Then let it burn. Vitelli's eyebrows rose. "I'm sorry?" "You heard me." I stepped closer, surprising myself with my boldness. "If Dominic's empire falls, it falls. But I won't leave him. Not for you. Not for anyone. You'd choose a criminal over your own safety. I'd choose the man who gave me. Back my life over the coward who threatens from shadows." My voice was steady, clear. "Do your worst, Mr. Vitelli. I'm not going anywhere." How touching. Dominic's voice cut through the night like a blade. He stepped onto the balcony, flanked by Luca and 3 other guards I didn't recognize. But it was Dominic who commanded attention. Cold, controlled, utterly lethal. "Threatening what's mine, Marco? Again?" Vitelli's composure cracked slightly. I was offering the girl a choice. She made it. Dominic pulled out his phone, pressed a single number. "Judge Morrison, it's time." A pause. "All of it." He ended the call, slipped the phone back into his pocket, and smiled at Vitelli with something that made my blood run cold. "Federal warrants are being executed on your properties as we speak. Your bank accounts frozen. Your political contacts suddenly remembering prior engagements." Another pause. "Your son's scholarship to Princeton? Mysteriously rescinded. Your wife's charity foundation? Under investigation for fraud?" Vitelli's face went white. "You can't." "I already did." Dominic's voice dropped to something arctic. "You gambled with what's mine, Marco. This is what happens when you lose." Guards appeared, escorting a now struggling Vitelli away. His protests faded into the night. Dominic turned to me and I saw it clearly. The monster Vitelli had warned me about. The man who could destroy lives with a phone call. I should have been afraid. Instead, I crossed to him and kissed him hard, tasting power and possession and something darker than love. "Take me home," I whispered against his mouth. His eyes blazed. "Which home?" "Ours. 3 weeks of peace. 3 weeks of falling asleep in Dominic's arms and waking up to find him watching me like I was something precious. 3 weeks of believing I'd finally found safety. I should have known better." The building's security system was state of the art biometric scanners, 24-hour monitoring, guards at every entrance. Dominic had personally overseen every detail. But Blake had always been resourceful when he was desperate. I was making coffee in our apartment now. Dominic had moved half his wardrobe in last week when my phone erupted with alerts. Security breach. 10th floor. Emergency protocols activated. My blood turned to ice. The apartment door had a reinforced lock, a deadbolt, and a chain. I checked them all, hands shaking, then grabbed the gun Dominic had taught me to shoot. "Emma!" Blake's voice echoed in the hallway, slurred and manic. "I know you're in there. Open the door." I backed away, weapon raised, phone pressed to my ear. "He's here," I told Dominic, my voice surprisingly steady. "Blake's here. I'm 3 minutes away." His voice was lethal calm. "Do not open that door. Do you understand me?" "Yes. Good girl. I'm coming for you." The pounding on the door intensified. "You can't hide from me forever. You're mine. Emma! Mine!" Then I heard heavy footsteps. Multiple sets. "Dominic's guards. Get your hands off the door. Now!" Luca's voice, deadly serious. The pounding stopped. Through the peephole I watched as 4 guards surrounded Blake, who looked worse than in the photo Dominic had sent months ago. Hollow-eyed, unshaven, clothes wrinkled like he'd been sleeping in his car. Then Dominic appeared. He moved through the hallway like a hurricane given human form, expensive suit, and controlled fury. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly through the door. "Blake Harrison. Not a question. A pronouncement. She's mine." Blake's voice broke. "I loved her first. You can't just take her. She was never yours." Dominic's tone could have frozen fire. "She was surviving you. There's a difference. You don't know what we had. I know you put her in the hospital twice. I know she changed her name to escape you. I know she lived in fear for 2 years because of you. Each word was a hammer blow. And I know that despite restraining orders, therapy, and every chance to move on, you're here. Threatening her. Again." I pressed closer to the peephole, my heart hammering. "I just want to talk to her," Blake pleaded. 5 minutes, please. No. Absolute. Final. "You have 2 choices, Blake. The same choices I give all threats to what's mine." Through the peephole, I watched Dominic step closer to Blake, who cowered despite the guards between them. "Option 1. You leave Chicago tonight. You disappear. You build a new life somewhere far away and you never speak her name again. You don't call, don't write, don't even think about her. You act like she died. And if you do this, you live." Blake nodded frantically. Yes, I'll go. Option 2. Dominic's voice dropped to something inhuman. "I handle this my way. Right now. And they never find your body." The hallway went silent. "Choose. Option 1. Blake's voice cracked. "Please, I'll take option 1. Dominic gestured to his guards. "He has 2 hours to be out of the state. If he's still breathing Illinois air when the sun comes up, option 2 activates automatically." They dragged Blake toward the elevator. As he passed my door, he tried to call out, but a guard silenced him with a look. Then it was quiet. I unlocked the door with trembling hands. Dominic stood in the hallway, his back to me, shoulders tight with residual violence. Dominic. He turned, and I saw it clearly. Fear. Raw, devastating fear. "If anything had happened to you," his voice broke. I closed the distance between us, took his face in my hands. "I'm fine. You got here in time. I should have anticipated this. Should have had more security. Stop." I pressed my forehead to his. "I'm safe. We're safe." He pulled back suddenly, and to my shock, dropped to one knee right there in the hallway. From his jacket pocket, he produced a velvet box containing a ring that stole my breath, and emerald-cut diamonds surrounded by smaller stones set in platinum. "Marry me. Not a question, a plea. Let me protect you forever. Let me love you the way you deserve. Be mine, Emma. Completely, legally, irrevocably mine." Tears blurred my vision. 3 months later, I stood in front of a floor-length mirror in Dominic's lake house, our lake house, wearing a dress that made me look like someone I barely recognized. Simple ivory silk, elegant lines, nothing ostentatious. But the woman wearing it was transformed, confident, radiant, visible. You look beautiful. My sister Sarah adjusted my veil, tears already threatening her mascara. I can't believe this is really happening. Neither could I. The ceremony was intimate, just family and Dominic's inner circle. Marco stood as his best man, tears streaming down his weathered face. Luca and the other guards lined the aisle like sentinels, but their expressions were soft, almost paternal. Sarah had flown in from Boston, stunned by the transformation in me. Your single quotes different, she'd said last night, over wine. Stronger, like you finally found yourself. I did, I'd told her, by letting myself be found. Now, as I prepared to walk down the makeshift aisle toward the man who'd irrevocably changed my life, I thought about the journey. 6 months ago, I'd been a ghost, invisible, terrified, hiding behind wine glasses and forced smiles, convinced that survival meant disappearing. Then Dominic Moretti had looked at me with those dark, knowing eyes and said, "Don't hide anymore." He hadn't just given me safety, he'd given me permission to exist. The music began, a simple piano melody. Sarah squeezed my hand, then took her place at the altar. I walked alone. No one to give me away because I was giving myself freely. Dominic stood at the end of the aisle, and the sight of him stole my breath. Black suit, white shirt, no tie, casual elegance that somehow made him more devastating. But it was his expression that undid me. Love. Raw, desperate, consuming love. When I reached him, he took both my hands and I felt him trembling. "You came," he whispered. "Did you think I wouldn't?" I hoped. I prayed. But until this moment, he swallowed hard. "You're here." "I'm here," I confirmed. "I'm yours. Forever." The ceremony blurred traditional vows, given new meaning by the weight of everything we'd survived to reach this moment. When the officiant pronounced us married, Dominic kissed me with a reverence that made my knees weak. "Mine," he murmured against my lips. "Yours," I agreed. "Always." The reception was laughter and champagne and dancing under string lights as the sun set over the lake. Marco gave a toast that made everyone cry. Sarah cornered Dominic and gave him a fierce warning about treating me right. He'd taken it with surprising grace. Later, as we swayed to music only we could hear, Dominic pulled back to look at me. "Do you remember that first night? When you were hiding behind the counter? Every second I saw you and thought, there she is. The one who'll either save me or destroy me." His hand cupped my face. Turns out it was both. "Good," I smiled. "You needed a little destroying." He laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "I love you, Emma Moretti." Emma Moretti. The name still felt new, but it fit perfectly. "I love you too, my dangerous savior, obsessive protector." I kissed him softly. My home. As we drove away later, toward our future and whatever dangers it might hold, I caught my reflection in the car window. The woman staring back wasn't hiding anymore, wasn't invisible, wasn't afraid. She was a queen beside her king, claimed and claiming in equal measure. Emma Cole had spent years in shadows, convinced that safety meant disappearing. But Emma Moretti knew the truth. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is step into the light. And I was done hiding forever.